By the time we started puberty, most of us had lost an entire world. I'm talking about imagination, creativity. And the older we grow, the more it seems like we lose that world, bit by bit. In this video, we will explore why that happens, and then also how we can reduce it, how we can regain that creativity and imagination. Hi, my name is Sven. I am a holistic performance psychologist with a mission of empowering you with the knowledge and tools necessary to consistently achieve your goals. I love that you're taking time today to explore functional fixedness with me. I want to start off with an experiment. That experiment happened 1945, and it was done by Karl Duncker. Now, Karl Duncker asked a group of people to fix a candle onto the wall in a way that if he lit it, it would not drip to the bottom. And for that, participants had a couple tools. They had a box filled with thumbtacks. They had matches, and they had a candle. That's all. Now, most of them tried, and if you like, try yourself, think about it, what would you do? But most people tried to fix the candle with thumbtacks to the wall. Seems obvious, but doesn't really work because the candle is round and the thumbtacks, they aren't long enough to penetrate. Then people also tried to melt the candle attached to the wall this way. But then when Duncker lit the candles afterwards, they would drip to the bottom, so it doesn't really count. So what's the solution? Well, the solution is about taking this box full of thumbtacks and putting out all the thumbtacks. Taking off the lid, attaching it to the wall with 2 thumbtacks, and putting the candle inside. And most people can't really figure that out because they're functionally fixed towards the box being a container and only a container. So you can't really conceptualize them as a tray to put the candle. So what is functional fixedness? Well, it's about using an object in a way that is traditional, right? It's about being fixed, but fixed to a way that is traditional. It is also a cognitive bias. What does that mean? Well, a cognitive bias, put simply, is a filtering process, a systematic filtering process that tries to determine what we need and what is useless to us. Now, in this case, the bias has determined with these objects that we don't really need the function of a tray or a house for a small person, maybe. Instead, only as a container. There is another piece to this, and that is functional fixedness, therefore reduces our ability to be creative and be innovative, especially when faced with challenges. Now, that is what functional fixedness is. It's a filtering process that we apply, and the filtering process filters out all of the information, all of the uses of an object that are not traditional. It limits us to the traditional ways we've learned. Which is the perfect segue to talking about why we have functional fixedness. And the reason, again, is the filtering process. We have so much information all the time. Even in this frame, where it seems quite empty and you only have me to look at, you could look at a million things. What color is my hair? How have I done my hair? What about my face? Is the hair in my face? What about my beard? What about my teeth? What about my fingers? Everything. You could take an hour describing the scene and it wouldn't be accurate. There would still be missing pieces. There is way too much information. So we need biases. We need some form of filtering process. And ideally, biases filter out irrelevant information. And we do that through learning, through repetition. If we need something, our biases keep it. If we don't really use something, our bias filters it out. That's how it works. So how do we develop this bias? Well, we look at the person or the persons that are closest to us in life when we grow up. When we grow up, we don't have biases. We're overwhelmed by all the information. And then we grow up bit by bit. Who do we turn to? Our parents, our guardians. They live what it is to live a proper life, a safe life, a successful life. So we copy them. And it doesn't matter what they want. The way they behave is what affects us as children. Now, if they use a chair only as a tool to sit on, the chair after some time, because it's repeated again and again and again, will only be a place to sit at. As a child, before this functional fixedness happened, maybe we would build a tower with it. But afterwards, no. Only for sitting, maybe for standing. Sometimes parents stand on chairs to reach a higher place. So that's how it originally happens. And there is one important piece here that I want to stress, and that is it happens with repetition. If you repeat something, whether or not you want it or not, if something is rewarded in addition to that, it happens. And that is exactly what happens when we grow up. At a certain age, our parents start to tell us, no, don't be ridiculous. Please don't stack the chairs. Don't make such a racket. Negative reinforcement. Instead, you see them sitting on it all the time. You are sitting on it all the time. Maybe they even ask you specifically, no, don't stand on the chair, sit down. So you sit down, it gets reinforced. Even your friends, your peers, at some point start to be turned. They will no longer be as creative. There will no longer be mind games and imagination games and all of that. It will be more like, let's rehearse class together, let's study together, let's do homework together. Maybe let's go outside and play football. Don't you want to do imaginary play with the ball? No, I want to train football. I need to be good for my match on Sunday. Again, negative reinforcement to what you want to do, to creativity, to imagination. Positive reinforcement to the traditional ways of doing it. So here we have why it happens. How can you reduce it? The first piece with everything is awareness. You want to be aware of it. Why? Because then you can actually have a look at where your bias is, right? If you don't even know where your bias is, it's very hard to reduce it. Then there is another piece, and that is realizing that bias, that functional fixedness, is a filtering process. And a filtering process, all of them, are created by our minds. Now you could just think, well, why don't I just tell my mind, hey, I would like to be more creative. Could you make that happen? I kind of like the creative stimuli. Can you leave some of them for me? Unfortunately, that doesn't work. If you were to do it every day, it would work, but not because you said it, but rather because you repeated it. The mind learns through repetition. Bonus points if you have reinforcement or punishment. It works even faster. Even more bonus points if you're emotional about it, if it's important to you. But let's stick to the first two. So you want to repeat something creative. Allocate some time to do something creative. You get a challenge. Instead of just going into the challenge, solving it the traditional way, reinforcing what you're trying to reduce, be conscious, awareness, and realize, okay, this is my time to train consciously creativity. So you train. And you train that by trying to be creative, right? Finding weird solutions. Let it flow. Give it some time. When you find something creative, even if it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it is creative, reinforce it, right? Take a moment, think, well, that was a great thought. Way to go. Great. You trained it, repetition, you reinforced it. Both these work wonders. Now, there's a couple more things here that help, and those are environment and your internal environment. So perfection, for example, is one of those things that you don't really want to have. Because if you think about a room and chairs, and the task is make that room look nicer, you would definitely not collect all the chairs, stack them in the corner, put over a blanket, and then maybe put light inside to make a giant lamp tower. Seems weird, especially if your goal is to have a perfect room, because it wouldn't be perfect. Your bed wouldn't have a sheet, your desk wouldn't have a chair. It's not a good idea. So instead, no creativity comes up. Instead, you're really focused on the traditional way. If you let go of this form of perfection and you allow yourself to go multiple steps out of perfectionism, the chair doesn't have to be there. The chair can also be in the corner. Why? Doesn't matter. It could be. There could even be 2 chairs in the corner. And then it looks weird. So a blanket to make it look nicer. And then you have something. And you're like, well, this is weird, but this is kind of cool. How can I make it better? Another step. And this is where you get back to perfectionism or creating a final product. You put some light inside. Bonus points if you have one of those. And you can change the color. You don't even have to crawl inside to turn it on. It's all remote. So, perfectionism, not a good idea. Instead, you want to have openness. Openness to experiences. Openness to new things. Then there's more things about the external environment. And that is stress. If you are stressed, if you're in danger, your heart's racing, cortisol, adrenaline, all of that, you don't really explore. What you do in that case is you want to feel safe. Your body wants to make sure that you're feeling safe, which means you reduce everything that is optional and you only stick to the traditional ways, what's proven to work. So stress is a killer for creativity. And then if you can't really help the functional fixedness itself, if you can't really improve it inside of yourself, you could just outsource it. You could crowdsource it. You could get people that are very much not from your area, not from your expertise. You could get them and you could post them with that problem. And they won't have as much functional fixedness. Why? Because they haven't really repeated all of this daily agenda that you've done. They haven't really repeated all of these processes. They don't even know the SOPs. They have no clue. And that's perfect, because the SOPs, the knowledge, being good at something, actually increases functional fixedness and reduces creativity. For the people that don't know, they don't have any of that. So they have less functional fixedness. Helps a lot. Then there is one last thing. And that one last thing is you want to train to distinguish what is actually part of the challenge from what you've just added because, again, your bias added it, because it's always been done this way. So reduce everything down, strip all the fluff to the first principles. It's basically do first principles thinking. So if you have a company and you have lots of different departments and you want to increase efficiency or you want to increase output or whatever, try and strip everything. And then you want to look at the individual pieces. Look at the limiting factors. Look at the challenge. Look at the goal. Everything else connected to it, leave it. Try and go as far down as possible. And then you can build it back up. And that might lead to ideas like, well, we have a lab. We have guys in the lab that are really good at research and testing things. Maybe they should talk on a regular basis to the people actually designing the product. That makes a lot of sense. Like that connection, it's not inherently connected, but we should connect it. Or maybe, well, we have a customer service team. They're very good at empathy and listening. Why don't we use that skill to bind all of our employees more together? Connect them with HR. Both of that is possible. So these are the ways you can reduce functional fixedness. Let me know if there's any questions. And I love it that you took time to watch the video. If you like it, like it. If you like my content in general, feel free to subscribe. And do really think about your filtering process. and take charge of it. You can do it. It just takes some conscious practice, some repetition, and some reinforcement. Make sure you repeat and you reinforce the things that you actually want to see more of. I'll see you in the next one.